Greetings, my friend. Welcome to the secret shop.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Secret Shop second episode. I am Neon, and I'm joined today by Anger. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
Fantastic. I'm doing really well. I'm also joined by Simon, whose computer is no longer a failure, apparently. We were having some difficulties getting it online, but it was being really moody. So how are you feeling now that your computer is no longer a failure?
Absolutely fabulous.
Yeah, but you're feeling good because you were had a good week. I think you were watching TI pretty closely and pretty hyped for that.
Yep, stayed up all nights for that.
And like for the record, all night means like the thing started in your time like 6 p.m. and goes to like 6 a.m. or whatever. Because you're
7 p.m. to like 6 a.m. One of the days even 7 a.m.
Jesus. Okay, yeah, no, that's pretty hardcore. Anger, you were watching a lot of it too, right?
Yeah, and I went to, on the finals, I went to a pub stomp event in real life and saw it on a big screen, like a cinema in real life, which was pretty cool. Oh, like a mini TI, like kind of like actually being there, you know?
Very cool.
With a little bit of imagination.
Yeah, no, that's really hype. So we are going to be talking a little about what happened at TI this week. Also have some other things to catch up on. One thing, actually, I liked doing the exercise that we did last time of introduction questions to get to know you. So I'm going to hit you with some unexpected questions still. So Anger, I'm going to start with you. So what are your top 5 Despacito remixes? Because this is what you just called out in your most recent promo video for your channel, and you're saying you want to discuss this. So what are your top 5 Despacito remixes? Very quickly.
Well, that is why it's like one of the big questions, you know, because I don't know, just like, you know, what happens when we die? What's the top 5 Despacito remixes, you know?
This is perfect. Yeah, the really deep questions of life.
Like, I don't have an answer for you,
this
sorry.
is so sad. Alexa, play Despacito.
You can do that to people who are listening to this, which actually is a good point. That reminds me, this is now officially a podcast because I have it on iTunes. So if you haven't checked it out there, you can find us, you can search us, The Secret Shop, and subscribe so you don't miss anything. I mean, we're still going to be on YouTube as well if you want to follow us here and subscribe, etc. Comment, really appreciate that. Support the channel that way. But follow us on iTunes as well so you don't miss anything. And Simon, now I have a question for you. I learned that you are a poet.
Oh my god. I do write now and then, yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's really cool, actually. I think that's sweet. How did you get into that?
I just started writing when I was young and didn't stop. That's pretty much it.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. So let's get into things. So with TI8 just finished up, let's talk a little bit about just the production and the things that happened there because it was a really, really sweet tournament. We're not going to go over everything that happened because it was like totally insane, top to bottom. But let's start with you, Simon, because we were actually hanging out through Discord chat.
Yeah.
While the finals was happening for us. Maybe to tell people a little bit about what happened over the course of that.
Well, I thought the finals were absolutely amazing. We got exactly what all the fans wanted, which is a 3-2 final. We played all 5 games, and especially game 4 and 5 were absolutely insane. Just like the captain of OG said, it was magic. They kept coming back. It was absolutely crazy. It was such a Cinderella story, especially with Thompson being such a top performing player despite his absolute inexperience when it comes to LAN events. This was his first LAN event. Just walks in there, takes $1 million and walks out again.
Yeah, he was quite the star, too. It wasn't like he was, the dead weight or something like that on the team. He was really quite the headliner. But the thing that was funny with us watching it is that we were hype going back and forth, all this drama, and also OG, the style of games that they play. There's a lot of comebacks as well. They often lose the early game, and then are able to set up those late game wins. But in the 5th game, it was looking so bad, and I actually left. And I was like, oh, I can't watch this anymore.
You were a non-believer.
I was a non-believer. And I was like, okay, man, I can't watch this. This is hard.
I guess this is over. I'll make food.
Yeah.
I'll make food.
Well, I mean,
this is over. And I'm just freaking out on Discord. Just smashing my hands on the keyboard, being like, dude, they're playing like gods all of a sudden. Come back.
Yeah, no, it was like 10:30 at night, and I hadn't eaten dinner yet, so I was like, yeah, no, I'm hungry. This is done. Gotta go. And I come back after like 10, 20 minutes or whatever. My Discord's like, explodes with caps lock nonsense. When you like freaking out, and I feel so bad that I missed it. I got to go back and watch it. But that was totally clutch and amazing for it. Any your impressions that you had, Inger? Because you were hanging out with us a little bit. You were having some serious microphone connection issues as well, which was putting you in quite the good mood. But any other thoughts on what you saw in the finals?
Yeah, no, I really liked it because they were so close, and OG really grew on me. I really like Optic and EG, but OG has also been one of the ones I really liked, and especially because of like what Simon said, like Topson, it's his first time on a big event, so. Yeah, but I would prefer it if it was EG versus OG in the finals, and OG could still win. Like, I don't care who wins, but I just wanted to see OG versus EG in the grand finals because of all the drama surrounding them.
Yeah, a lot of people wanted that drama, but in the end, perfect flowers and friendship prevailed, and we broke the TI curse. We stole the Chinese.
We didn't break all the curses though, because RTC still hasn't won.
It's fine. He has another chance on Team Secret later.
Yeah, I was actually like so looking forward to. There was a conversation I was having with Anger, saying something like, "Oh, like a hot." Like she was asking what a hot take means, and I gave the example of like LGD has no chance to win TI as being a hot take, and she was like, "Oh no, that doesn't seem that hot. That's in luck." And I was like, "Whoa!" And I was looking forward to be able to like put that in your face when they got onto the podcast here, but turns out that you called it. You didn't believe in the curse, and you were able to predict into the future. So that was absolutely amazing. If you haven't checked that out, even if you are somebody who doesn't really know anything about Dota, you're somebody who's here from a card game related background, this is a great series to go back and watch, just because of like you can just follow with the drama of the hit points going up and down and all these battles being decided by like mere inches. You don't need to be a Dota aficionado to get that drama. One quick thing though, we wanted to talk about just in terms of like the production of the whole thing, because I think that we had some different thoughts on it. I mean, I am always blown away by how incredible the production quality is generally for these big LAN events that the Dota team puts on. I like, for me as a content creator, I always like just kind of like look at awe of just, wow, these casters are so good. The transitions are usually so smooth. I mean, there are technical difficulties from here and there, which is, I mean, kind of inevitable, but I am always just bowled over by how fucking good they are at their jobs.
Yeah, I agree that it was good, and like they did some fun things in between. But the things I liked all included pro players. As long as it includes the pro players, I don't have a problem with it. But what I do have a problem with is when they squeeze in like cringy shit about like talking to the fucking audience and shit like that. Like, I understand they have to hype them up and stuff, but like, why are they spending many minutes of it? And that's just one of the things they did. There was so many unnecessary things, and like the panels in between matches, like they had some fun things, like for example BSJ and Grant, who are both godlike players and casters. That was really fun, but it was only like 2 minutes, and the rest of the time were like clueless people who aren't even pros themselves talking about Dota and just saying they were talking, they were saying words, but they weren't saying anything, it was just air. And instead get like an actual pro player, somebody who actually knows how to play, so that noobs like me and you can understand what's actually going on and hear from a pro, like, why are they doing what they're doing.
Yeah, I understand that a lot of people thought that some of the segments were cringy, but I honestly didn't mind. I think that KC is a treasure, and that we are very fortunate to have her. She was one of the first to do any sort of esports coverage in the mainstream media way back when. And since it's a live event in like a stadium, talking to the fans is like a standard in any athletic competition, at least when it comes to stadium sports.
I mean, I think it's a question of it's a question of balance too, right? Like, I mean, I personally think that, little bits and pieces of that, the interspersed is like kind of, fine. But I feel that it could have been condensed in terms of the time, etc. But like, one of the ones I think that we were talking a little bit yesterday that I thought would be really interesting is like, imagine that you, at the end of the day, you have, like Nahaz and Purge or whatever, go over some key moments of some of the different games that happened like that day, and make some 5, 10, and 20-minute segments from that, talking about like, why is Enchantress being picked so much? Why is, like how did this play work out that was so good, etc. And that kind of, like how that kind of content that you can disperse over the course of it, because like these guys are there and they're really good talent, and I don't feel like they're being fully utilized. I don't know. I would have be interested in some experimentation in that way. One of the things that you were mentioning is that they had in previous years tried to do that sort of analysis, as you were going through, but it was so hard to get it in terms of like the timings to work out well. You would never go through, like, for instance, an entire game, but it doesn't have to be an entire game. It can just be a 5-minute segment of, oh, Enchantress seems to be one of the picks of the tournament, and this is why we think that she's so good right now.
Yeah, true. It's sad that Purge was underutilized this year. He wasn't in the main event at all, really. A lot of people missed the so-called Weatherman Purge segment, where they would analyze entire fights and the early game in just a couple minutes with very nice visuals, and they kind of abandoned that this year. But I understand that Valve always wants to experiment with what works and what doesn't. For example, last year was extremely conservative and playing it safe. Last year didn't have that many memes, for example. They didn't have all these funny segments. That was also because of their office moving, etc. Like, they just wanted to play it safe that year. But I really thought that they brought it in terms of entertainment this year. Like, the whole Gabe announcer pack is so fun.
Oh yeah, the Gabe announcer pack is hilarious.
And just for the record, like, I have nothing against Casey. Like, I don't have a problem with her. But the thing is, she is really cute and charismatic. So when she says dumb things, nobody cares. But she inflicts that on others who aren't as cute and charismatic. So she kind of puts them in a situation where they can't escape seeming cringy. Even though I don't find it cringy, but like, if you just look at the Twitch chat, and I don't know, I just feel like it's kind of inconsiderate.
That has to do with the kind of crowd that Dota players are as well, though. Like, if she did that to some, Chad sports ball fans in a stadium, you just know that they would be dancing and shouting in front of the camera as much as they could. It's just that...
Yeah, sports ball! Sports ball, yeah!
It's just that Dota players aren't that kind of crowd.
Exactly.
And that's what Casey may be not used to.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's one of those things you can take it or leave it. Like, the people who are doing it kind of are signing up for it in a certain sense too. And if they're fine to be embarrassed slightly, then that's fine. If they're just happy to be like, yeah, I look a little bit stupid, but I also get to be on the internet in front of 300,000 people, which is kind of cool. But I don't know. But with that though, how about we move on to the next event to talk about some of the stuff that really applies to what we're interested in, and that actually has to do with some of the announcements that came out around the new heroes and then stuff that relates to Artifact directly. So the first one that we can cover that's shorter because we don't know as much about it actually was about the Mars announcement. So this is a new hero that apparently is coming in the winter, and we know basically nothing about it because other than like they show just a picture. If you're watching on the YouTube, you'll see this up on the picture, but it's like a shield with some spears that are out to the side of it, and it looks like to me that it's related to the red mist. Am I reading too much into this, or is that the impression that you guys got?
Did you actually see the trailer for it?
There was a whole trailer for it. Maybe just saw the image. I didn't see the whole trailer.
Well, in the trailer, we that's the thing that's so confusing. Because I also thought for the longest time that Mars would just be a work-in-progress term, like a code term for Solar.
That's what I thought.
Because in January, we actually had a couple leaks relating to Mars. The name was leaked, and we had a couple icons leak, and even one spell effect, which is a whole bunch of spears next to each other, and it had ability names like spear and phalanx cancel. So we've had some of that before, but as I said, I thought that this would relate back to Solar Khan. But in the trailer, we very clearly see a Greco-Roman inspired legion rising up from the ashes around what people have to assume to be Mars, stomping the ground with his spear. And there's like flames coming out of his face on the sides. But what really confuses me is how unfinished the silhouette of Mars looks. Like, they've been working on this hero presumably at least since last year, end of last year. And it looks like the design itself is not intricate at all yet. Meanwhile, they just come out with Grimstroke, whom we'll be talking about soon, I'm sure. And he has a very intricate design. And Mars will be coming out only in winter, which could be next year. Like, I'm just really confused about how long they've been taking with this one hero, because usually their development is much quicker than that when it comes to one character.
Yeah, I think one interesting thing about Mars is that even though like real life mythology doesn't apply to Dota lore, Mars is the Roman god of war, which goes also like with the whole theme of like old Roman warriors and shit and army. But one interesting thing is that since he is the god of war, maybe he can rise fallen soldiers from death or something, like we saw in the video. So I think maybe he will be very inspired by the Roman myth about Mars, just like Zeus is of Zeus from Greek mythology. But it really annoys me though. Like, why are they taking one from Greek mythology and one from Roman mythology? Like, they could at least be a little.
Especially because the whole Spartan thing that they're drawing from is Greek.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're pretty like. One of the issues with Greco-Roman mythology is that in popular culture, the two of them are pretty thoroughly blended in how people sort of interpret them. You know, like whether a Minotaur is Roman or Greek, or, you know, a Cyclops or whatever, a lot of people just don't know. And there's actually something that's really interesting in Magic the Gathering. There's one of the areas in Magic the Gathering, one of the planes, that is heavily inspired by Greco-Roman mythology. And one of the things they very deliberately said when they were making this set and making this world is they're saying, like, we're going to, you know, blend these really freely, because although we understand, we can do the research and we know that there's a lot of differences, and that, you know, such and such concept really doesn't apply, you know, to this one. But in popular culture, there isn't that much of a differentiation. So as a result, they just said, like, we're just going to blend them together to make what we think is the coolest. So I think that that's probably a similar approach to what Valve is doing, which people who are aficionados for, you know, Greco-Roman, you know, or like one or the other mythology are going to be a little bit peeved by that. But I think it does work better in terms of popular culture sort of consumption.
True.
The thing, though, that I think sticks out for this that is so confusing is, like, it just felt so much like a lock that this was going to be Sorlakan. You know, they had suggested earlier that maybe there's going to be these new artifact heroes that are going to go into Dota. You know, it has the spear, which looks really similar to the one that's on Sorlakan. You know, it just felt in all these different ways. Like even just like looking at the promo, like, you know, picture right now, like, Sorlakan is the leader of the Red Mist, and this is sort of a red, misty appearance here. So I found it was really interesting that they decided to do that, and maybe it'll be a while before we actually see those artifact heroes move into Dota.
Perhaps Valve wants to establish these new heroes and artifact first, and they don't want to rely on Dota as a tool to make them popular. However, just again, looking at the design of Mars, there are some interesting ideas with like the flames coming out. But if you look at his silhouette, etc., it looks so unfinished, etc., that part of me is thinking that this is a bamboozle. Like, part of me thinks that it'll just turn around at some point and it's like...
And it'll be Sorla Khan.
It's Sorla Khan.
Yeah, I can totally see that too.
But, yeah, but it looks like they're really going for this whole Spartan aesthetic. Even though, again, that would work with Sorla Khan's horde of Oglodi as well, if they wanted.
But aren't they more inspired by the Mongolian Empire, though?
Yes, but you can still do the same kind of effect with the phalanx with shields, etc. But again, that's just a part of me that would really want this to be Sorla Khan. But a new hero is cool as well. Speaking of which,
yes, we do have a new hero as well. That the twist on this one as well, that it dropped immediately. People could play it that minute when it was launched, basically, which is ridiculously cool that they were able to get away with that. And you could even see people like the casters and stuff like that on Twitter being like, "It's out right now? What the hell?" Like, just losing it over that, which is just so cool.
Yeah.
But that is Grimstroke, of course. This is a new hero. I think that my understanding in terms of the play patterns is a supporting hero that's really good at nukes, etc. But I think that there's a lot of lore background here that we've sort of figured out already. And I know that, Simon, you've been going hard into this because you're working on a video for it. But how about you then start us off by giving a bit of an introduction to the lore of this hero as we understand it right now, given how much information we've given.
Yeah. So he has a pretty cool trailer which follows the Mars tease right away. And they actually do a pretty smart little fake out in the writing where it seems like this is going to be the story of a hero with a dark past, but then it's revealed that he's the one who killed his own family, his loved ones, etc. And in his lore, what it is basically is that he was brought up to be the guardian of the people of Ashkavor, which is a new place. We've never heard of this village or town or region before. And he was supposed to just use his big brush to put his own mark upon the runestone, which seems to be the source of that region's power. But instead, he had manipulated the paints, the mixture, which already breaks quite a few sacred rules, apparently. And instead, he caused a huge wave of corruption known as the Ink Tide. And it was threatening to take him over. But in this ritual of soul binding, he realized that he could use his soul bind to his people instead of protecting them, simply redirecting this corruption towards the people and saving himself in the process and corrupting his entire region, his loved ones, and everyone. And the interesting part is that he also has an in-game monologue, which is something they've been experimenting with since the Pudge Arcana, where you can just keep spam clicking him and he just keeps telling the story of how he returned to that village to basically absorb all the power of these Inky remnants.
Wow. So remnant, though, that's an interesting word. That's important for, in the lore, connection to the spirits, correct?
Yes, this is according to a little theory I have, where I believe that Ashkavor lies within the Wailing Mountains. The Wailing Mountains are pretty much the place of origin for all the spirit heroes. Well, the three spirit brothers, Ember Spirit, Storm Spirit, and likely Earth Spirit. Because we can actually see the kind of architecture of Ashkavor in the trailer, and that seems to be very comparable to the feudal Japanese, feudal China kind of architecture that has been used for backgrounds for the spirits as well.
Yeah, and that's something that there's this the story of the four spirits or something like that. Like there's supposed to be four of them, but there's only three of them that we know about right now. So maybe Grimstroke either is associated with or is the fourth spirit, which is an interesting way of going about it. And if you actually look through the voice lines, some of his voice lines towards the other spirits are pretty, like vicious. He certainly does not seem to get along with them. And now he doesn't really get along with anybody, it seems. So that is definitely something that it's hard to know exactly how much to read into it. But there are a couple of lines that are pretty vitriolic towards the other spirits.
Yeah, and the interesting part is that he treats the spirits as two separate entities. Like there's voice lines where he will refer to Raijin, the actual storm spirit, and there's lines where he will refer to the man that was overtaken by the spirit Thunderkeg. So it seems like he either knew those people in the past or he's simply aware of their origin. I personally believe that he knew them personally because Ember Spirit's silhouette actually shows up in the trailer as well when Grimstroke speaks of his teachers. And Ember Spirit was a teacher back in the day. Zin was.
Yeah, so you're going to be working on a full video for that to get all of the nitty-gritty details of what's going on there. Now, Anger, I know that you had a chance to look through some of the voice lines, etc. as well. Is there anything that stuck out to you from the lore that you've been able to pick up from Grimstroke so far?
I haven't made any coherent theories yet, but I noticed that Ashkavor, it sounds kind of demonic-ish, and a lot of his voice lines are very connected to demons. Like he has a lot of things he specifically says to demons, and they both as allies and enemies. So it seems like I don't know. I like I said, I haven't made a coherent theory yet, but I think maybe he can have something to do with that. And especially, wait, hold on. Let me find what he says to Doom specifically, because that really tickled my curiosity.
Yeah, I know exactly which line you're
like, okay, for
referring
example, to Shadow Fiend, I told you I'd sample your collection, Fiend. To Shadow Demon, I'd thought perhaps I'd learn a thing or two. I guess not. To where's Doom? Oh, and Lion, the horrors of hell have nothing on me. Like he's saying that he doesn't fear hell because or that he is worse than hell, you know.
Yeah, I mean, and it's one of those things that always with these lines, it's like, it's really hard to know exactly how much to read into them. One of them specifically was to Dark Willow. Can you find that one for us?
Oh, wait, hold on. This one first. To Clinks, he says, I take no pleasure in destroying Maraxiform's greatest work of art. Maraxiform is a demon who rose from the sixth hell to terrorize Earth. I think he has a direct connection to demons and hell and stuff. But yeah, like I said, it's not coherent. But Dark Willow, is it as an ally or enemy? I'll find it.
I think it's as an ally. There's a line there that's interesting. You can find that.
I think that he is simply interested in anything evil, pretty much. He commends many of the evil characters on their powers and goals, etc. I actually find it interesting that he tries to corrupt Crystal Maiden.
Oh yeah. Well, one of the things that I thought that was interesting, like my initial thing of seeing him and my initial reaction was thinking that he had something to do with the Isle of Masks, but it seems as if actually going through Aeronaut's world is kind of Japanese looking. He is wearing a mask and Isle of Masks, like that seems kind of obvious to me, and the stuff about the ancestors, but it sounds like that's probably not the case given the naming of the place, because like the Ashkavor place, I don't think has ever been mentioned before.
Okay, so I was looking for the Dark Willow voice line, and then I see when he's talking to Earth Spirit and Ember Spirit as an ally, he's saying to Earth Spirit, stay away from me, Kaolin. This is as an ally. He's telling him to stay away from him, and he's doing it by name.
Oh, yeah. He does not like other spirits.
Yeah. Even as an ally, he doesn't like them.
But to Dark Willow, he says, I meant to tell you, Mareska, I recently crossed paths with a Fae stalker who was asking after your whereabouts. I assume this is Bounty Hunter. And then two, my people might have preferred more arson to the sins of my past.
Well, the thing that I thought about that was that this idea of like having some connection possibly to Dark Willow, because I know that she's one that has like a lot of her voice lines are interesting related to the lore. So I don't know, maybe it's reading too much into it though, but lots of different possibilities there.
I don't think it's Bounty Hunter, though, simply because he isn't Fae.
Well, it could be a Fae stalker, as in a stalker of Faes. I don't know. No, maybe you're right. Maybe.
A Fae are a race. She's a Fae.
Yeah. That's it's another term for fairy.
Yeah, but maybe he's talking about somebody who hunts Faes or something. I don't know. No, maybe you're right. I think yeah.
So anyway, I think that Dark Willow though, she's the only fairy in the Dota lore right now, right? Or like in terms of actual like heroes.
I mean, Puck is a fairy dragon.
Oh, sure, but it is a different type. It's not like the same race.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's lots of different possibilities there. I look forward to Simon's video that'll be coming out as soon as possible that goes into all of the nooks and crannies of the lore. The thing that I was going to ask to end this segment, though, is how this might relate to Artifact. Do you think that Grimstroke will have any connection to the lore? Because I think that we know enough about the lore right now that it doesn't seem like he's going to fit in directly right now. It seems as if the places where the focus is in the Artifact lore are predefined and they're largely involving these characters that we already know about, such as Sorlikon, Legion Commander, Rix, etc. So I don't think you right now, at least, that it's too relevant. But what about you two? How about we start with Anger, if you have any theories?
Yeah, the only thing I noticed is that he doesn't seem to like Aglodes at all. But he's not the only one. Like that's, that's not something new.
They're not a popular race.
But can I just say one more thing about like it's something not related to this question, but one thing else I noticed.
Sure.
When he's talking to Troll Warlord, who happens to look a lot like him, what's his name? Paintman. I never remember what his name is.
Grimstroke.
I just call him Paintman. Yeah. Okay. So Paintman really looks like Troll Warlord.
Yeah.
And when he meets Troll Warlord as an ally, he says, "Something about you really appeals to me, Troll, but I can't put my finger on it. Maybe they are related."
I actually think that's just a joke about how you can troll your allies with Grimstroke's abilities.
Oh.
Maybe. Interesting. I don't know very much about I don't know anything about Troll Warlord in terms of his lore, so that'd be fascinating. But anyway, how about this? What do you think about the way that he would fit into the lore of Artifact?
I don't think he fits in at all currently. He doesn't even have a line about Sorla or anybody relating to Artifact, which is something that previous heroes, Pangolier and Dark Willow, had. So it almost feels like they are isolating this hero from Artifact, if anything.
That was one of my thoughts for it, because I was looking through immediately being like, oh, there were so many ants about Artifact. There were so many references to stuff in especially Dark Willow's lines that were really useful for piecing stuff together. So I immediately was thinking, oh, I should go through Grimstroke stuff to see if there's any references to all of that. And largely it's pretty thin. It's going in a very different direction, which is fine. But I was kind of hoping that it would give us some hints.
If anything, he sets up more things within the universe, within the story of Dota 2 that isn't related to Artifact. Like, he seems very knowledgeable about everyone's origin, and he offers help to certain characters in their goals.
Yeah. It's
interesting, especially the setup about Aghanim, because it seems like it's actually not certain whether or not Aghanim is alive.
Yeah, he seems there are some suggestions that he knows something about Aghanim. It's definitely not fleshed out. For those of you who don't know, Aghanim is one of the most powerful mages in the Dota universe. I mean, so like we kind of talked to this a little bit before in the conversation that I had with Anger about introduction to Dota lore, is that there's a bit of a power scaling issue that it's hard to know exactly, like, everybody seems to be the most powerful thing in the universe, which who actually is the most powerful. So that she calls it the Dragon Ball Z problem, which I thought was an interesting reference. But anyway, Aghanim, though, is considered to be one of the most powerful. So the fact that there's this connection, possibly to Aghanim, is interesting. But once again, to me especially, it's no direct tie into Artifact lore. So I was a little bit frustrated by that.
But isn't there a card in the copyright catalog that's called Aghanim's Sanctuary?
Oh, I remember there isn't.
There's like, I would say that there's probably going to be something related to Aghanim in Artifact. He's obviously an important character in the lore. But I mean, like, to what degree is it just like, oh, this is an improvement that, gives you 2 extra power or something like that? Like there's a lot of different things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Probably just more teasers. Looks like they're setting something up long term.
So, anything else about Grimstroke before we move on from you guys?
He's currently pretty overpowered, but Valve is pretty quick on fixing that sort of thing.
Well, I think that usually when they add a new hero, that it's good to overpower them slightly, see exactly how overpowered they are in terms of the numbers, and then turn it down as a result of
Exactly.
and it gets people excited about the hero too. Like actually like forces them to learn it. When if it comes in a little bit underpowered, then it'll be like, like why bother learning it? Okay, so with that, how about we move on to some of the biggest announcements, though, that's directly related to Artifact, our focus here on the podcast. So the beta announcement is official. The I didn't want to front load this because I think everyone's seen this by now if you've been following the Artifact related news. But yeah, so beta in October. We don't know when in October, but this is the game announcement happened at the launch of TI. Basically, what he said is everybody here at TI, you get a beta invite, and everybody who's coming to PAX gets a beta invite as well, which is insane. Like that's first we've heard of it, and it's happening in October. Let's get some responses to this. I know that we had each of us, I think, made some funny videos about this this instance because it was kind of a really dramatic moment for us. But let's start with you, Anger. What was your impression in reaction to this?
Honestly, I think I think everyone's going to be able to buy early access because one guy commented on Reddit that he has an uncle who works in Valve, and he swore to me that he's not lying. So I'm gonna trust him, and I'm gonna sleep well at night knowing that at PAX we all get to buy early access and get into the beta in October. But if we don't, then I'm gonna be really fucking pissed, and I'm gonna buy a key for $200.
You gotta be careful that guy doesn't hack you. I've heard that his dad is the boss of Microsoft.
Oh man, these uncles and dads just kind of working together to get at you. But yeah, I think that it's something that for me, I would find it like it's obviously really cool that there is this beta announcement that's happening and that there is a beta that's happening. It's kind of strange though in some ways. Like one, if you're doing it as a balancing exercise, it feels like it's a really short time to me because assuming that it's not October, if it was October 1st, so this is coming out, that's 2 months of beta. That's pretty short for a game like this, right?
Honestly, that's still potentially hundreds of thousands of games that they can use the data of. I mean, at that point, the game should really just be about balancing and tweaking a couple numbers. So I think that the beta is plenty long enough.
I don't know. Maybe it's just something that I'm used to from like norms of other card games. Like, I mean, Eternal's beta is technically going on, and the game has been around for 2 years or whatever. That's its own thing. That's funny. But for instance, like Hearthstone's beta was a lot longer than this too. I personally think that it's going to largely be a server stress kind of test. And you're making sure all of the technology is working at scale for it, and less so on the balance side. And they've kind of felt like they've already got that element really polished off because, like, for 2 months of time to do that kind of testing, there's just not enough time, I feel, to really have the metagame churn and evolve enough to really be able to get dependable numbers on exactly how things are balanced.
Oh yeah, I don't think that's the goal though. Because they already said that their philosophy for balance in Artifact will be that they will only really nerf a card if it's an emergency, if it's in literally every deck must have, and they would never really buff a card even. That's what they've said in interviews.
Yeah, I know that they've said that. I just find that a really hard line to interpret exactly what that means because it's really tying their hands. Sure. I understand why they're saying that and why they want to do things that way, but it feels really they're setting themselves up to a really hard standard to meet in terms of balance. Because like for me, I've spent a lot of time playing card games. I like a lot of time playing card games, and the thing that I've learned is that like balancing is hard to do, and especially for games that have a trading component, there's an additional challenge there because you're impacting the value of their collection quite a lot in terms of like actual physical dollars. Like if a Hearthstone deck gets nerfed, you can reimburse them the dust or whatever did it, like not just Hearthstone, but like using an equivalent system is that you can nerf a card, you can give them back the dust that they're using for that card, and maybe even something in addition to that for the value of the rest of the deck, and then somebody can use that and allocate it towards building a new deck. You can't do that with a with cards like this, if you're nerfing a rare or whatever in a trading card game, because it's having this effect on the real world economy, and you can't like refund everybody, like buy them back their axe cards that gets nerfed or something like this. So you're more likely, I think, to upset your customers if you have to do these balance changes.
True. It is a fine line to walk, but I think that Valve can do it. We'll just have to see. So far, they've always been very receptive to community feedback. Even though they don't answer in words, they usually reply in patches.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole like bigger thing that I've been thinking about a lot about. I want to do a video about that at some point in the future. But definitely, though, hyped for the potential of a beta. I also kind of think that similar to what Anger is saying, that I would suspect that there's other ways to get into the beta outside of just those invites. It would seem kind of weird to me that they would just dump a ton of invites in those like specific places and then nowhere else. So exactly how many are going to go out, exactly how easy they are to purchase and to acquire, obviously an open question. But I personally think that it's a pretty good chance that if it's not an open beta, that there'll be a lot more keys given out, because it would this is something that a lot of people on the Reddit, for instance, brought up, that it's very biased towards North Americans, given the fact that there are no like it's PAX and TI. So if you didn't go to one of those two events, then you don't have an invite.
True.
Mm-hmm. All I know is that I'm gonna get a beta key no matter what. I don't care what I have to do.
Yeah.
I will cut out my own kidney if that's what it takes to get a fucking beta key. I don't care. I will kill someone who has a beta key and take their beta key.
I have to edit this out in case somebody gets killed for a beta key. There's nothing to do with it, but some random gets killed for a beta key in California while you're there in Norway, and you're just on the hook for it.
Yeah, so on your case, you're on a list now.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering how they'll handle it, because way back when the Dota 2 beta, that was a mixed bag. Like, it started very slow and keys were worth a lot because you could actually trade them via the Steam trading system, which was much more open back then. I don't think they want to repeat that sort of thing where beta keys go for hundreds of dollars online. I think they want to avoid that. So I hope that it's going to be the case that you can pre-order the game for beta access. But we'll have to see.
Wait, so Neon, I have a question for you. What do you think will happen after the beta? Will people get to keep or will people get to keep like whatever they get in the beta? Do they get all the cards in beta and then they keep them when beta is over, or do they get all the cards in beta and they don't keep them? They get a new packs and everything like everybody else, or do they still only get the 2 basic decks and the 12 packs? Like what do you think will happen in the beta and after?
So one of the things that, for instance, Magic the Gathering Arena, an online card game, like how they've been doing it, because they're in beta right now, and you could spend money on the game, but they said that they're going to be doing a wipe of the game in the future. But how they do it is they give you back any value worth of money that you put into it when the game restarts. So how I would imagine it is they'd say, okay, you can buy into the game, you can spend money on the game, etc. But I guess it's different because it's a trading-based game. It is a lot different. So maybe it would.
And as far as we know, they don't have a digital currency like gold or dust or something.
Yeah. No.
So they wouldn't refund Steam wallets.
No, they wouldn't. Definitely not. I think that they would have to. The 2 options. There are 3 options. One is they give you a limited collection, and maybe they feed you stuff, over the course of the game, but you can't spend any money on it. But it's like you have like whatever it is, 2 sample decks, 10 packs, and then you're getting 2 packs a day or something like this that allows you to experiment, and you can even trade with other people maybe, but it's going to be a very limited amount of collection, and this is one of the tests. The second one is that they give you just everything. that you can test as well, just a fully unlocked account. The third one that I think is probably the most likely is that they just guarantee that you get the same collection when they go over to the actual release. So, and like your collection just stays the same between the two of them, and that the only thing that resets is going to be the infrastructure of the game and some other capacities and the way in which people get into it. So that would be my guess, if I had to guess, but it's probably one of those three possibilities. So with that, though, how about we move on to talking a little bit about PAX as we're getting into it? It seems as if PAX is going to be the big deal. We thought that there'd be a little bit more, I think, about Artifact at TI8. We didn't get a whole lot, but now that we are approaching PAX, which is clearly the big focus, it seems as if Valve is looking to just totally blow it out of the water, and that this is their big push, their big marketing push for Artifact. So what are we expecting to see of this? We know that we're getting decks. There's this big tournament that's happening, and that'll give us a lot of information. Beta keys going left, right, and center. I expect that we'll get any other announcements about what's happening with the beta of maybe when is it coming exactly and how else people can acquire the keys. Anger, what else do you think is going to be coming at PAX?
I don't know. I think that the biggest thing for me will be just seeing a full game. Like, so far we have only seen two rounds. I want to see an entire game. I want to see how long a game takes, what happens late game, because so far we're only speculating what late game is like and how strong it is compared to early game. How many items will you have at the end of a game? How many cards will you have left in your deck? Do cards even disappear from your deck, or do they go back when they are discarded? Like, there's so many questions I just need the answer to, and I hope to get that from PAX.
Yeah, very true. I expect there to be a huge media rush. Like, I predict that so many news outlets will just jump on that event. And I'm sure that there will be quite a few interviews as well, videos, pictures, everything. And I think that this will be quite the turnaround in the mainstream that hasn't really been paying attention to Artifact at all. Like, there's still so many people who don't know that Richard Garfield is involved. They don't know how much deeper the game is than its competitors. I think that this event will just spawn a lot of hype for even the mainstream, or at least, the general audience of a card game.
The gaming mainstream.
I think it's going
the
to
people who've been paying attention to it so far are card game fanatics and Dota fanatics. But this is going to probably reach anybody who pays attention to gaming news is probably going to know a lot about Artifact now afterwards.
And I think that a lot of Hearthstone players will start paying attention as well.
But Neon, you have a big foot into the other TCG communities. Is Artifact something a lot of people there are actually aware of, or is it kind of like Dota that they heard about it once and then they didn't really think about it anymore?
I think that there are a lot of people who are paying attention to it right now, especially like the digital card game focused people. Part of it is I also have the bias that I am paying attention to this a lot because I'm working I hang out with people who are connected to card gaming news and stuff that's happening more broadly. Somebody who's more of a casual, I don't really know. So there's definitely more penetration that's possible, though. So especially the Hearthstone casuals, I don't expect that they know. Eternal people, they probably mostly know about it. Magic people, definitely the more casuals, I don't expect would know very much about it yet. So there's a lot of potential in more people to tune into. The people who, like anybody who's a really devoted card gamer, especially a digital card gamer, has heard about this and more or less interested in it. So we'll have to see how that changes it. And definitely a full demonstration, game, seeing more of the cards. This will all make a really big difference in how interested people are in the game. So I'm really excited to see how they respond to it. And I think there's a lot of potential there. And definitely just getting more cards, just seeing the cards themselves and seeing them in play will make a really big difference. And the fact that we get all of that just a week from now is so exciting.
Oh, and one more thing I didn't think about earlier is that I think the NDA will be lifted during PAX. So we will see, of course it will, we will see so much that there would be no point in still having the NDA. So I think we will see a lot of more content creators coming out, like the bigger boys like Slacks and stuff, and streamers. The people who are in beta will probably, like in the closed beta, they will probably start streaming it, like Admiral Bulldog. So I think that's maybe something interesting we will see.
They might have to hold off that until the beta itself. I'm not sure. It's interesting though. If they do that, that'll be a big deal and make a big difference in how much attraction there is. Like somebody like Day 9, for example, if he's able to suddenly start now streaming and recording videos of Artifact, that'll be a really big deal in the consciousness of the gaming community generally. I personally think that they would wait until the beta comes, and then it would only be restricted to the Valve employees that would be able to talk about it more, who are specifically at PAX. But that's my guess. What about you, Simon?
Yeah. The thing about NDAs is there's so many misconceptions about it. Like, whatever the company chooses to disclose is not a breach of NDA or anything. So if they allowed that wouldn't be a breach of NDA. And I don't think that the NDA will be lifted anytime soon. And in fact, people being allowed to stream or something once the beta is out, I doubt that that's a part of the NDA, because the NDA relates to stuff that is happening pre-release, and they may already be testing cards that we're not going to see until the first expansion. Like, that's the kind of stuff that they are not allowed to talk about. Even when the game is released, I think the most that we'll ever get out of pre-release Artifact news from testers is, oh yeah, that card used to be much cheaper in the beta. That was pretty strong. And that's it. Like, I don't think they'll ever talk in detail about what's been going on pre-release.
But so there's so many people though who come from TI and PAX and are going to be in the beta in October. How are they going to keep all of them quiet?
Oh, I mean, it's definitely when that hits. By the time that, like, the question is whether is it at PAX that they drop the NDA sub, or is it at the beta actually like launches? Like, because obviously when that happens, then yeah, like there's no way to enforce that. There's going to be tens of thousands of people in the beta, and so it's all over. It's all going to be public. Yeah,
obviously, but that's not the
exactly.
version that's under NDA. That's already
it's like the stuff version. That Admiral Bulldog and Day 9 and Purger, whoever it is that's in there now. Like, they are seeing a game that might look different and work differently, or have seen one previously that isn't what we're going to see when the game actually comes out. And the question is exactly how much can they talk about of that? Well, so we'll have to see with that. But I think that is good for today. Let's plug some stuff that'll be happening from you guys on our way out the door. Anger, let's start with you.
Well, I'm only gonna, for now, continue on my current series, like the lore and the different card types. But wait, hold on, one second, cut. Let me find my list. I have it on a list.
You're gonna get the schedule.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I was right. That's it. Okay, let me just say this. Okay, okay, so. I'm going to continue my card series, and I'm also going to drop a video really soon about Mazzy and the Keen Folk, so stay tuned for that.
Very nice. Simon, you are focusing on this Grimstroke video right now. Is that correct?
Yes. The funny thing is I had actually been working on a video about the spirits before, and this finally gave me the context I needed to spice it up.
Looking forward to that.
Look forward to that. Until then, check out the Artificers Guild as usual.
Yeah.
We actually got a shout out from all of us. Got a shout out from Valve News Network, and Anger even got a commendation from the lead designer of Artifact, Jeep Barnett, didn't you?
Should we include that on the podcast?
Oh, yeah, we can talk about
it. That's No, but I feel like it's kind of like humble bragging. Ooh, Jeep Barnett commented on that post.
We can humble brag for
Valve
you.
News Network featured me in a video.
Oh, you mean what you've been doing on the Discord?
Yeah, no, we can humble brag for you. It's okay. We'll take part of that. But yeah, I was getting a shout out from VNN was cool too.
If you're not comfortable,
okay. I'll meme it. I'll meme it. It's okay. Yeah. So me and Jeep Barnett were basically best friends now. Yeah, like.
Very nice.
You might have more subscribers than me, Artificers Guild, but do you have Jeep Barnett as your best friend? I don't think so.
No, I just got an interview with the writer.
Did you actually? Because that would be sweet. I'm
I got an email from him for the Kana Alexa video.
Yes. I do remember that very well. Okay. And then, of course, for me...
Cut all of this.
I'm keeping it in. It's on the tape. Can't change it now. There's nothing that can be done. It's on the tape. So then for me, I'll just plug things out the door. Be sure, of course, to subscribe to the channel and set notifications to make sure you don't miss anything that comes up. Like and comment. This really does help people find the channel, which I really appreciate. And check out anything else that's on a+space games. Lots of great content on there. Some of it is artifact specific, and there's some other stuff that's on there too that's not as artifact specific. And I think that it's all very interesting. So I want to thank these two for joining me today. It was a lot of fun. That'll be it, though. Follow me on Twitter as well. I don't follow that enough. Follow me on Twitter. Follow this on iTunes. You're all beautiful. Take care, everybody.
Peace.
Thank you. Thank you for your business.
Where is it?
And I really like Paintman. He has really funny voice lines.
I love Steve Blum.
He's so sassy.
Okay. Hello.
Your very existence. Oh,
come on.
Amateur hour.
Come on. Okay, quiet. Shh.
Hold on, let me just.